Welcome back to the Current Finance News podcast. I'm Jordan McDonald, joined as always by Mila Ram. Today it's all about Labour's plan to tax people's savings accounts, Mila, and what a year it's been for national finances, thanks to the £20 billion hole the last Tory govt failed to declare to the incoming government. If you're a subscriber, you'll be automatically notified when our next podcast drops, not least our post-budget analysis at the end of October. If you haven't subscribed, please do so today to avoid missing out. Mila, let's dive into Labour's proposed changes for taxing UK savings accounts. Quite a hot topic lately.
Absolutely. The idea of taxing savings is hot potato, and it was always going to spark debate, especially as many people rely on these accounts to plan for their future. The rationale for taxing investments makes sense because it rests on several key economic factors. For example, it acts as a stimulus for the economy while encouraging savings. Yet here we are discussing the potential taxation of savings.
Right, what a paradox. So what exactly is Labour suggesting? It seems they want to review how savings accounts like ISAs are taxed. Specifically, Labour's proposals aim to increase tax rates on interest, dividends and capital gains for savers, which could impact those relying on these passive income sources.
Yes, and from what I've read, they're considering whether the current tax-free allowances on ISAs are fair and sustainable. A key concern was if the tax attractiveness of cash ISA is reduced or compromised. This might encourage investment in riskier stocks and shares instead of traditional savings.
That's interesting because ISAs has been a core lever of government policy for promoting personal savings for the better part of 2.5 decades. So do you reckon changing the tax rules might tempt more people to invest in stocks and shares? A choice likely to increase their exposure to risk in contrast to cash ISAs, which are generally considered safe and tax efficient.
Definitely. If the benefits decrease, some might see less incentive to save, especially younger people just starting out. Yet, as we speak, we have a worrying situation with pensions generally, where only 41% of the population are actively contributing to a pension to secure their old age in retirement.
But isn't part of Labour's argument that the current system benefits wealthier savers more? They say higher earners get disproportionate advantages.
True, that's a fair point and a concern, but if Labour reduced the allowances, could it end up discouraging lower-income savers too? The policy of the government on taxing personal savings might lead to unforeseen negative consequences, just as the poll tax did, by creating the perverse situation where couples who lived in multi-million-pound mansions paid considerably less poll tax than ordinary families living in a 3-bed semi with 2 young adult children at university or studying for what was known as A-levels.
Yes, I recall the poll tax well, although as the flagship policy of the Conservatives government at the time, it seemed like a stroke of genius until it wasn't. The poll tax was ultimately a fiscal disaster. That's the tricky balance, isn't it? The political risk as well as encouraging savings, while making sure the system isn't skewed towards those already well off as the poll tax did.
Exactly. And with inflation biting into everyone's pockets, any change to savings tax feels even more significant right now. It feels almost like a personal attack on people's aspiration for financial independence.
Speaking of inflation, do you think people are already dipping into their savings more? Maybe the timing of this proposal isn't ideal.
I'd say so. There's been a noticeable uptick in withdrawals, and many rely on ISAs to shield what little they can save from taxes.
Some analysts argue that increasing tax on savings could make people turn to riskier investments, chasing higher returns.
That's a real possibility. If the safe option becomes less attractive, people might take on more risk than they're comfortable with. In other words, government policy might lead people to involuntarily adopt a higher risk appetite.
On the flip side, Labour says they want a fairer system, maybe even redirecting funds to public services. Do you think that's a strong enough justification?
It's a noble goal, but for the everyday saver, the immediate concern is how much they'll lose in the process, especially since people continue to see a significant proportion of their earnings eroded by income tax and NI contributions.
There's also speculation that this could affect retirees the most. Many pensioners rely on their savings for income.
Yes, any policy change should consider vulnerable groups. A blanket approach could unintentionally hurt those who need support. Mark my word, Labour's plan to tax people's savings accounts might yet turn out to be an own goal of gargantuan proportions, just like the poll tax was for Tories. So watch this space.
What about the argument that the current ISA system is outdated? Shouldn't we update it to reflect modern financial habits?
There's merit to that. Digital banking and new saving tools have changed how people save, but the basics, wanting a safe place for money, remain the same.
That's true. Maybe reforms could include more flexibility, like higher allowances for certain groups, rather than a one-size-fits-all cut.
Or even incentives for long-term savings. Right now, it's more about short-term tax relief than encouraging lasting financial health.
I wonder how much political motivation is behind these proposals. Is this about revenue, or is it about fairness?
Probably both. Governments are always balancing budgets, but the fairness argument plays well with voters.
Do you think there is a risk of public backlash if these changes go ahead?
Highly likely. People don't like governments tinkering with their finances, especially when it means less money in their pockets.
So, if you were designing a savings tax policy, what would be your top priority?
I'd focus on protecting low and middle income savers, ensuring they're not penalised or disadvantaged for doing the right thing.
Makes sense. Maybe more targeted reforms rather than sweeping changes?
Agreed. And clear communication is key. People need to understand what's happening and why. The current vacuum is not helpful and only serves to fuel rumours swirling around in the press and in pubs up and down the country.
Ultimately, this is about trust. If people feel punished for saving, they might stop altogether.
Exactly. It's like watering a plant. You want growth, not wilted leaves and flowers.
Well put. So where do you think this debate is headed in the next few months?
I expect lots of discussions, maybe some tweaks before anything's final. The public's voice will matter.
For our listeners, it's worth keeping an eye on the news and maybe reviewing your own savings plans.
Good advice. And remember, regardless of what the headline says, smart saving is always in style.
That's a wrap for today. Do these proposed changes make you rethink your savings strategy? Let us know your thoughts.
Thanks, Jordan, and thanks to everyone for listening in. We'll be back soon with more personal finance news. Meanwhile, please hit the subscribe button to ensure notification of our next finance podcast. Take care till next time.